this video, I'm going to show you how to create a residual plot and how to analyze it. So I have 3 different data sets that we're going to look at, but the first thing we need to do is we need to import the data analysis package so that you can actually do this. This is only going to work if you have a downloaded version of Excel, if you are working off of the online version of Excel, or if you've been working out of Google Sheets. This is not going to work. So you will need to get to a computer with a downloaded version of Excel to be able to do this part. So I'm working on an Apple computer, so it looks a little bit different. But if you're working on a Windows computer, you want to click on the home button, or like the button where you would go to like print and stuff. And then here on my Apple, I'm going to go to Tools, and I'm going to go to Excel add-ins. On your Windows computer, it looks different. Let me see if I can find the right one so that it looks the same as it does on the Windows, because I know I can get there. That's not what I wanted to actually do. On the Windows, you're going to click on Options. Nope. And then you want to add the data analysis package. But it looks totally different because I'm on Windows. So you wanna add the analysis tool pack so that we can get the data analysis package. Okay, I don't have a Windows computer to be able to show you how to do this on a Windows computer. So if you're on an Apple, it's really simple. You go down to Tools, Excel add-ins, and you click the button. If you're on a Windows computer, you're going to have to look up how to add it. Analysis tool pack. I know you go over to where you would print, and then at the bottom it's options, and then there's a couple more buttons that you have to click. Okay? But once you have that added in, then we're going to come up to data, and now you should have analysis tools and data analysis. So I'm going to click on data analysis, and it's going to give you this big old list of all of these things that we could do. And we want to do regression. And then I'm going to tell it what I want for my Y values. So these are my Y values. And then my X values. These are my X values. So I'm going to highlight my Y values in the input Y range box, and then click down to the input X range box and highlight my X values. Okay. If you highlight the titles, then make sure you check mark labels. I did not. I just highlighted the numbers, so I'm going to leave that unchecked. And then your output, where do you want your output? Do you want it in the same page, but a different, like where do you want it? Do you want it in a new worksheet, but in the same workbook? Or do you want it to just make a whole new workbook? So I'm just going to have it open a new worksheet. I don't need to put anything here. So just new worksheet for me. And then we're going to check residuals and residual plots. And that's all we need to do. So when I hit OK, it's going to go ahead and do its calculations. There we go. So we've got a bunch of stuff over here. We're actually going to ignore that. We're going to focus in on the graph. Okay. So over here on the graph, I need to zoom in. Zooming in and then looking over at the graph. There it is. So what we're looking for in this plot is we're looking to see, is there any pattern? of these residuals. Each of these dots represents the value of the residual. So this is a residual. It had a value of 0. This is a residual. It had a value of 1.066666 repeating. This was another residual, and another one, and another one. So do we see a pattern, or do they look to be pretty random? Okay, there's a little bit of a pattern here, but not really. It's pretty random otherwise. So a random residual plot is great. That's what we want. We want it to look random. A random residual plot like this means that doing linear regression was the correct choice. So if I come back to my original data set, this number here is what I got for the correlation coefficient, 0.9959858. Really strong. And when I look at the scatter plot, it looks like a very nice straight line. The residual plot is just another step that I can do to make sure that a linear regression line was the correct choice. Now, what would this look like if it was not the correct choice? I'm so glad you asked. I'm so happy to tell you. So here, this one was pretty obviously linear, but let's look at this one. So this is our data set. I did a little bit bigger of a data set for this one. Here's our graph. They look like they're moving in kind of a line. Maybe we have a little bit of a curve-ish down here, but it's pretty straight. And the correlation coefficient, 0.9786. That is pretty darn strong, right? It's close to +1. So it's strong and it's positive. Those are great things. We would see that and we would go, yippee, I'm so happy. But if we do our residual plot, so I'm going to do the same thing I did. I'm going to do data analysis. I'm going to do regression. Now for my Y range, I'm just going to click on the entire B column. And then for my X range, I'm going to click on the entire A column. Now I have labels. So I want to make sure that it knows that I have labels, because it's looking at that first row this time. It's going to put my output in a new worksheet. It's going to calculate residuals and residual plots. And we're going to hit OK. Oh. Okay, maybe we have to do a new workbook. Hang on. Oh, it doesn't like that I did all of row B. Okay, so we can't do that. We have to actually highlight. Usually it'll let me just do the entire thing. So, gotta highlight the data. Can't just click on A and B. But I still highlighted the X and the Y. So I'm going to keep the fact that I have labels. Let's see if I can go back to just a worksheet. Okay. There we go. All right. So now if we focus in on this graph, get zoomed in and then bring it over. Okay, here we go. All right. Now, if I look at this residual plot, there is definitely a pattern here. This pattern looks like a parabola. Okay, remember our parabolas can be either U-shaped or rainbow-shaped. And this one definitely looks U-shaped. So because I can see a distinct pattern, that I look at this and I go, that kind of looks like a parabola. This suggests to me that even though this looks like a pretty straight line and the correlation coefficient for a linear relationship is high, the residual plot is saying linear is not the best one. You should do a different type of regression. We are not learning other types of regression. So this is where you would just say, well, I tried linear, but then the residual plot said something else was better. And then you would go and hire a statistician who knows the other types of regression to do. Like me. Okay, so this is an example of one type of pattern where we would look at this and go, that looks like something else. It's not random. No, that looks like a graph I've seen before. Yeah. So this guy is actually probably better fit to a quadratic regression line. And then I have one more example here. This one might be a little more obvious that it's going to curve on us. But I found the correlation coefficient and it's 0.92477. So, you know, why not work with it? It's not a strong linear relationship. I'm saying we could draw a line in there somewhere. But let's look at what the residual plot looks like. So we do our data analysis, regression. Okay. Now we gotta make sure we get the correct numbers. Okay. I don't know if I have to clear that out every time when I go to a new sheet, but I like to just to be safe. I did highlight my X and Y again, so I'm going to keep labels on. New worksheet, residuals and residual plots. Don't have to worry about any of the other stuff. And hit OK. Ooh, now this one, again, we've got a definite pattern here. Not that. I'm just trying to get it to move. There we go. Okay. Now again, I see a definite pattern. It goes down and then it comes back up. Okay. Maybe it's quadratic. It looks quadratic, right? That looks like a parabola. So I would go and I would try a quadratic regression next. I'll give you a fun fact. When I created this data set, I cubed everything. So I know that I should be doing a cubed graph, but we don't know that next. We don't know that. So the next thing we would try is quadratic, which we're not learning about. Okay. The only thing we're learning right now is, hey, this guy has a pattern. That means linear, not actually the best choice, even though the correlation coefficient said it was. Okay, this guy here, he looks even more linear. But the residual plot, he says no. The residual plot says, that looks more like a parabola to me. Because there's a pattern in the residual plot. But the first one, that looked pretty linear. The correlation coefficient said linear. And then the residual plot, the dots were pretty random. I can't find a pattern that points to a different type of relationship like I could with the other one. Now, if all of these dots were going in a straight line like these ones down here at the bottom, that would be concerning. But because it's just these four and then the rest of them are kind of jumbled away from those, and then these guys are kind of here, it's okay. Okay? I'm not going to say this is the best one either, but we don't see an obvious pattern like we do here or here. They look more random than the other ones. So this one says, you know what? Linear, that's a good fit for this one. So those are residual plots and how to interpret residual plots. Random pattern in your dots, great. Patterns that look like other types of graphs, not great. or any type of pattern in your dots. Not great. We want random. And that's how you make a residual plot in Excel.